Hey, how you doing? In this video, I'm going to be explaining all about music distribution. So if you're an independent artist looking to release your own music, then you need to know about this topic. But before we really get started, I'm just going to explain that this is not a comparison video where we analyse the differences between all of the different distributors. Okay, what we find from talking to so many of you is that you don't really understand what music distribution even is, or the function that it plays in the modern industry, and how important a decision it is for you in terms of your marketing and promotion. Also, we find that there's very limited knowledge of the related copyrights and royalties that are involved with distribution, and the different types of distributors that are out there. Now, from the conversations that we have with you and the questions that you ask, it seems quite clear to us that many of you just simply choose a distributor because you've heard of them before, or someone you know's used them, and you just sign the terms and conditions without reading it or even understanding it, and just simply hope for the best. So this video, I'm hoping, will give you the background information that you need to be able to make an informed decision for yourself based on where you are in your artist journey and what your needs are. Okay, so I think artists need to understand that the decision on choosing a distributor is far more important than you seem to be aware of. So let's get started with understanding the role that distribution plays in the music industry. It's probably helpful to give it some sort of historical context here. So in the past, we needed to find a way of getting hard copy physical products, CDs and vinyl, into retail stores. So the logistics of labels doing this themselves will be very complex and expensive. So distributors would do this and provide that service to labels. And so this service primarily is a logistical one of placing music into retail stores. Now let's fast forward in time to the present day. The primary function of a distributor still remains the same, and that is to place music into stores. However, there's two key differences. Firstly, we've got digital stores and digital streaming platforms. And secondly, we've got loads and loads of artists who can create their own music and want to release it. So because we don't need to move and create physical product, digital distribution specifically has become very affordable for lots of people. And yes, there are still some sales of CD and vinyl, and there are distributors who will move this stock for you. But for the vast majority of artists, digital distribution is the starting point of your career, and it will also be the main source of your recording income as you progress. So you find yourself in a position of needing to get your music digitally distributed and placed on streaming platforms and download sites and so on. Now let's start with the first thing that you need to know, and that is that you do need a distributor. All right, you cannot do this yourself. And I know we're in the age of self-releasing artists and DIY musicians and all this kind of thing, okay, which is great, and there's lots of things you can do yourself, but distributing your music isn't one of them. All right, the main streaming sites, Spotify, Apple and all the rest of them, the download sites, they don't want to deal with you directly. They only want to deal with distributors. Okay, they don't want to have to be communicating with millions of artists, making millions of small payments here and there all over the place. They don't want to have to keep explaining what the metadata they need and the platform requirements and so on, right? They don't want to do this. It's just too much hassle for them, okay? So they want to only deal with distributors who know what they're doing. They won't deal with an artist directly. So now we know what a distributor does, let's look at how they do it. When you release your music and use a distributor, what you're effectively doing is trading your sound recordings. Okay, it's important for you to remember or know that when you write a song and then record it, you've created and own two copyrights, one for your song and one for the sound recording. We've already done a whole video on this about music copyrights. You really need to understand this, so you haven't already checked that out, I advise you to do so, okay? The whole music industry revolves around the use and trading and royalties relating to these two copyrights, okay? But in the case of distribution, what you're doing with a distributor is you are granting them permissions for them to distribute and collect royalties relating to your sound recording copyright only. It's got nothing to do with your songs. And just to be clear here, your distributor should not be taking ownership of any of your rights. Okay, you should always retain all of your rights. Now, most of the distributors that you've probably heard of, most of the well-known ones, they won't take ownership of your rights. Okay, what you do is you grant them a license, which is basically permission for them to do the things that they need to do. All right, but you still retain ownership of everything. If you find the distributor who wants to take ownership of your rights, then, well, I would avoid them, or definitely get yourself a music lawyer. Which leads us on to looking at the money side of things. So where does the money come from and what is it that's being paid? So let's focus on streaming, and let's use Spotify as an example. So when a track gets streamed on Spotify, that creates a royalty that's due to the owner of the sound recording and the songwriter. Okay, but because you've granted your distributor the permission to collect your income relating to your sound recordings, Spotify will pay the portion of the royalty that's due to the recording owner to your distributor on your behalf. Your distributor then obviously takes their commission, if they're taking a commission or any fees that you might have agreed with them, and then pay the rest to you. The other portion of the streaming royalty doesn't usually get paid to distributors. Okay, that songwriting royalty is sometimes called the publishing rights, and Spotify pay that to a PRO, which is a performing rights organisations, and also to mechanical rights collection societies. If you write songs you don't know what these are, then you need to do some research, find out about them. We've done some videos on it, okay? You need to know how to collect your songwriting royalties. Your distributor is not normally collecting these. Having said this, there are some distributors now who are starting to branch out and offer services to help you collect your songwriting publishing royalties, all right? But this is not the primary function of a distributor, usually, all right? But now that there's so many independent artists needing help collecting things, that different organisations are starting to offer a variety of different services to cater for your needs, okay? But the primary function of a distributor is only collecting the income relating to the sound recording. Hopefully it's become very clear to you now that if you are writing, recording and releasing your own music, that you're due royalties for both your sound recordings and for your songs, and they are done separately. Okay, lots of the artists that we talk to make the assumption that their distributors are paying them all the royalties that they're due, okay, and that's just not the case. All right, so you need to make sure you're collecting your songwriting slice of the streaming income as well, and not just the bit that your distributor pays to you. Now we're going to look at the different types of distributors that are out there. And as a self-releasing artist, I think it's quite important that you have some idea and awareness of where you fit into things in the marketplace. So you could categorize the distributors in various ways, but we're going to break them down into 3 categories. The first category are the major distributors, and these are the same as the major labels. That's Universal, Sony and Warner. So not only do they dominate the label side of the industry, they also dominate the distribution side. They even distribute for other labels. Collectively, they are huge, and there's a few different statistics that calculate their market share, but basically they collect more than 3/4 of all distribution revenue. This makes the major distributors really powerful because of the sheer size of the catalogues that they control. They even have shares in Spotify. So what independent artists need to understand is that these major distributors have close and direct relationships with the major platforms, and therefore they are in a much better position to be able to promote and get support from the platforms when they're releasing their music. This means distribution has become so much more than just about the logistical placement of your recordings, okay? It's now become about the support, the playlisting, and getting your music suggested to listeners and all these kinds of things that help to get your music in front of people. Okay, that's become a big part of what modern digital distribution is all about. And it's very hard for you to compete with that as a small independent artist. The second type of category that we use for distributors are what we call selective independent distributors. Okay, so these are distributors who will only distribute the music that they choose or select to distribute. Okay, they won't distribute anybody. Okay, so they need to sign you basically if they're going to distribute your music. Some of them will only work with labels as well and won't actually work directly with artists. But the ones that do work with artists, they generally take a commission of whatever it is that you're making. So they normally only get money if you're making money. So therefore they are incentivized to promote your music and work with the labels and try and generate as much revenue as they can with your releases. Some of these selective independent distributors are even offering advances, and they sign artists and offer the similar sort of services that labels might offer in terms of promotion and marketing support. Some of them are acting very much like labels do. The idea is that you'll be charged a higher commission, but you get better promotion and marketing support. These types of selective independent distributors and the label type services they offer have really grown in popularity over the years, and a key reason for wanting to use them to distribute your music is the relationships that they have with the major platforms and the marketing and promotional support that they can offer you. So if you're not signed to a major label, they can be really beneficial for you because, as an independent artist, it's very hard for you to replicate the kind of promotion that they can offer you. And then finally, we come to our third category of distributors, and this is what we would call open distributors. Okay, so these are the types of distributors who will distribute anybody. Okay, they're not selective, and these are the ones that you might have heard of already. So these are the ones that most independent artists interact with to begin with. So we're talking DistroKid, CD Baby, TuneCore, these kinds of distributors. Okay, so although they may be quite well known because they're the ones that lots of you are actually using and interacting with, or hearing that your friends are releasing music through, actually individually their revenue share is quite small, especially when you compare it, as I've already done, to the major labels and how big they are. Okay, so they don't provide the sort of promotion and marketing support, and they don't have that connectivity to the platforms that the majors and the selective independents do. But these open distributors do play a really important role in the music industry. For a start, they've really opened up distribution to everybody, which is a fantastic thing for independent artists. There are also artists that can maintain a living just by releasing their music through these open distributors. But generally speaking, I would say that as an artist who wants to grow a career, you would probably want to progress towards one of the selective independents at some point so that you do get that marketing and promotional support that these open distributors do not replicate for you. Now we've come to the place where you can consider comparing the good or bad points between different distributors. Okay, it's important for you to have had that background on the types of distributors that are out there and available or not available to you as a self-releasing artist. Okay, because a lot of the comparisons that you're going to find online only really focus on these open distributors. So let's start by looking at the pricing options that you've got. Okay, so some distributors will charge an annual fee and you can release as much music as you want. Some will charge you per release. Some charge commission on all your future income. And some of them charge a combination of these kinds of things. Okay, lots of them also have hidden charges that you want to look carefully at. Okay, so they might charge you for sort of ISRC codes and product codes, these kinds of things, or for registering your copyrights, which is a service that you may need or may not need depending on what country you're in. Some of them have leaving charges. So if you try and leave their service or switch distributor, they'll take your tracks down if you don't actually pay the leaving charge, which is something you need to be aware of. So just look carefully and consider what's right for you. Okay, it's not the same answer for every artist. All right, some people would be better off that they pay the annual charge, and for some people, it'd be better off just paying the commission as they go. Usually, when you're just starting out and your streaming numbers are fairly small, these kinds of decisions are not that significant. As you grow and you start getting tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of streams, then suddenly the cost of your distribution is something that you need to start considering a bit more carefully. With regards to your actual choice of distributor, just to point out that you can only have one distributor working each release. You can't have multiple distributors all trying to place the same track on the same platforms. Okay, that just causes chaos. It annoys everybody. Your track will get stuck or taken down, and it's going to delay everything for you, make things a nightmare. Okay, they don't like it, so you can't do that. You need one distributor per release. So that doesn't mean that you can't have multiple distributors doing lots of different releases for you. So you can try different ones out if you want to, or you just choose one and it's easier and they're doing all your releases for you. Okay, if you do that, and eventually you might want to try a different distributor, you can then switch your previous releases over to the new distributor. Okay, so you have got an option to try different distributors. Just be careful about that thing I mentioned earlier. Some of them do charge you for moving your tracks across, otherwise they'll take them down. Next, you need to consider where exactly your music's going to be placed when they distribute it for you. Okay, you may just assume that they all just distribute it everywhere that's possible. Well, actually, that's not true. Okay, some of them just go for some of the main platforms, and some of them pride themselves on literally just finding every possible outlet that they can for your music. Okay, so they're not all the same at this. Some are better at it than others. Okay, again, when you're starting out, you may only need these main platforms, but as you grow, or if your music is quite niche and there are certain platforms that will be more beneficial to you, well, again, these sort of decisions may become more important for you. Then you need to think about the service levels that you get from your distributor, okay? And this can vary quite greatly. All right, are they any good at resolving problems? Are they contactable? Okay, if you're going to start releasing lots of music, then you will eventually run into an issue at some point. Trust me, we've released lots of music with artists that we manage and artists that we coach. So eventually there will be an occasion where maybe the track doesn't appear on the release date like it's supposed to, or it goes up onto the wrong artist profile, or it appears on one platform but not on another platform, or the codes are incorrect. And there's all sorts of different things that can tend to go wrong. All right, so if you've got anything like this, then you need someone that's going to be able to help you resolve that problem. Also, sometimes some of the distributors will help spot errors that you might have made before these things get distributed in the first place. So have they got any kind of, issue resolution and detection for you to help you with all this kind of stuff? Also, most distributors give artists some kind of user account that you can log into, okay? But these vary greatly in their quality and usefulness. Okay, some of them are really user-friendly, some of them can be glitchy and not work very well and hard to navigate and so on. Some of them do really amazing analytics, some of them aren't so great. Some of them provide really accurate and detailed accounting on your revenue, and some is a bit vague and you're not quite sure where the money's come from. Okay, so again, these are something for you to think about and just bear in mind in your choice. There are multiple other small things that we could compare on these distributors, but I'm not going to go through all of these now. I recommend that you do go onto the internet and find some of these comparison charts that are up to date, that show all the differences between the different service levels and what these distributors offer. I hope that's been helpful and answered some of your questions and cleared up any confusion you may have had on music distribution in general. It's a really important decision what distributor you choose, and they can play a really important role in the start and the growth of your career. As always, if you found this video useful, please don't forget to like or share, and we'd love to hear any comments or questions that you have. Take care for now, and we'll see you next time.